Hi, this is Eric Martin with Board Game Geek. I'm here today looking at Villainous, a game by Prospero Hall and Wonder Forge that is for 2 to 6 players, ages 10 and up, plays in about 45 to 60 minutes. Prospero Hall is a pen name for design company Forest Prison Creative, which is the team responsible for Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle and the recent Jurassic Park Danger game. So they often take IPs, intellectual property, owned by other people, and create games based around those properties. So in Villainous, you are taking 6 famous Disney villains and pitting them against one another to see who can be the baddest of them all. That's the premise of the game, and the game takes an interesting approach to the multiplayer aspect of play, as well as how these villains would interact with one another. Let's look at this. Here are the components for Villainous. We have 6 player boards, 6 decks, 6 character figures, 6 player guides, and a cauldron full of power tokens. I don't have the game set up for play because it will probably be more helpful to have the components displayed this way. The components have this flat sheen on them, so they look sort of colorless in the video here, but actually the color is quite rich. It's just the light shining on it in my studio with the camera angle that I have. So I have the board propped up so you can see it more clearly. In Villainous, each player represents a different villain from a different Disney movie. We have Prince John from Robin Hood, Captain Hook from Peter Pan, you have Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, Ursula from The Little Mermaid, and Jafar from Aladdin. So each player is going to represent one of them and get a personal deck of cards along with a player board that represents, in an abstract way, the path that they must follow to complete their mission. Each player board has 4 locations on it, and each location has 4 actions, with the arrangement of actions on each board differing based on the characters in the game. You have your character marker, which will start on the leftmost space. Some characters will start with their last location being locked due to some game element. In this case, Jafar cannot go into the Cave of Wonders. He must open that first, as in the story of Aladdin. Each villain has 2 decks of cards, the villain deck and the fate deck, that represent themselves and the heroes and items that will be found in their world that will try to stop them from doing what they want to do. At the start of the game, player shuffles their deck and draws 4 villain cards, and they will have 4 villain cards in their hand at the start of each turn unless they take particular actions during the game. At the start of your turn, you must move your character from your current location to a different one that is unlocked. So on the first turn, Jafar can move to the streets of Agrabah or an oasis. Once you're at a location, you can take the actions that are depicted there, such as gain 3 power. You take that power from the cauldron, you put it in front of you, and you use that power to play cards from your hand. And at the oasis, you can play 2 cards, as is depicted by this symbol here. You can also activate an item or ally that you have in play in front of you, whether you played it that turn or an earlier turn. Other powers that are available to you. You can take a fate action. When you take a fate action, you draw the top 2 cards from another player's fate deck and play one of those cards on that player's board. So the deck will consist of heroes, items, and effects, and you choose one of them to play. An item needs to be played on a hero, so if there's no hero already on that player's board, you cannot play this and must discard it. But Aurora is a hero and can be played on one of the locations on that player's board, blocking actions. So now they cannot take those actions when they visit that location on a future turn. If someone played a fate action against Jafar, for example, they might draw the Sultan and Narrow Escape, an effect that can be played for its power that's written on the card here. In this case, maybe they discard this and take the Sultan and play it on one of the locations, and you would cover a space so that now the top 2 actions on that location cannot be used, hampering that player. You cannot play a hero or any other thing on a locked location. Other actions that are available on player boards include moving an ally or an item, which means take a card on your side of the board and move it to an adjacent space. Perhaps you can move a hero, that is someone who's been played against you, and you want to move them to an adjacent location to match up against allies or particular locations that you have on your board, because one of the other actions you can take is to vanquish a hero, where you take the strength of the hero. If you have at least that strength in allies, you discard as many allies as necessary to remove the hero. Everyone goes to the discard, and you sort of clear the board. Another action available is to discard cards from your hand. You can discard as many cards as you want. After you finish taking actions for your turn, you refill your hand to 4 cards. Each player board summarizes the winning condition for that character. For Jafar, you need to have the magic lamp in the Sultan's palace. You need to have the genie under your control. You might not understand what that means, so you have the Jafar player guide, which you can read to understand more about the character, the cards in their deck, and how they will reach their winning condition. I'm not sure whether you think Jafar's winning condition sounds simple, but when you look at what's actually involved in making it happen, it's somewhat involved and will take a lot of actions and turns to do. You must find the Scarab Pendant, use it to unlock the Cave of Wonders. You must find the magic lamp, play that in the cave to draw forth the genie. If the genie's not already out, you need to hypnotize the genie, which is another card. It requires lots of power to use to bring the genie to your side and then move the lamp over to the Sultan's palace and start your turn with the lamp in the palace. There's all of that. You're taking 1 to 4 actions a turn. You need power for all the things you're doing. You need the cards. How are you going to get all that? You're going to pick away at it a little at a time, at the same time trying to use fate to hold off other players and delay them, because sometimes if you set the wheel rolling against the player, it will just keep rolling down on them and they'll be trying to get away from it constantly. Every villain has a different winning condition, and it's kind of amazing to see them in action. I have not played with all the characters yet. I feel bad doing this video, having experience only for the characters, because I feel like I'm missing out. And most of them I've only seen 1 time. I've played the game 3 times, only with 2 players, so I haven't done the multiplayer experience. This is a very first impression take on the game. But for more details on that, with Ursula, who I was first, that was my first villain, I need to find my crown and trident and bring them back to my realm. I didn't even find the crown and trident before Jafar killed me. Well, before Jafar won, let us say. I had everything pushed against me. Heroes constantly. Blah, just nothing was working my way. And it sort of developed that way because of my style of play, where I took the deck, I shuffle it up, I draw 4 cards. I had no idea what was in my deck, what was available to me, and what was possibly coming against me in the Fate deck. That's how I like to roll. I just pretend I am the character in the movie. I don't know the background, I don't know the situation. Things are just going to happen, and I have to make the best of it that I can. I didn't even find the crown and tried it. Played again immediately with Ursula. I knew I had to find them. Those items are critical to my success, so I was discarding as frequently as I could, just playing things just to get rid of them, because each turn you refill your hand of 4 cards. I found them much faster and was able to win that game because I had a much better idea of what I was trying to do, what was in my deck, and how to stop the heroes against me. Once those heroes start piling up, they take away your actions, which really hampers your development because you're taking at most half the actions that you could. So you want to keep fighting against them and pushing off against them, except that if you always have cards in your hand to play against the heroes, then you're just holding on to things that might be useless. If you have no heroes against you, it's just taking up space when you could have something else. Your discards are not removed from the game. They get all shuffled back in. So why not just discard and then you'll get everything back eventually. You have to try to put together the pieces when you can. My first player with Jafar, my first opponent, I should say, had Jafar put everything together. And it was interesting just to see the turns, how he worked, and it's very complicated. And it was interesting because it sort of mirrored the flow of the movies in terms of how it's not easy to make this happen. It takes a lot of work to be a villain and put all this together and have all the dominoes fall right in order for things to work out your way and win. Prince John, his winning condition is that he has to have 20 power. That's it. That's the most straightforward of the villains. You'd think it'd be straightforward, of course, just go to the power spaces over and over again. But you can't do that. That's going to get blocked by heroes, and you have to travel elsewhere and come back, and the fate cards in Prince John's deck are going to work against that, stealing power, requiring him to spend power to do things. There's all sorts of stuff going on. I played with Maleficent as well, where her winning condition is to have a curse in all 4 locations. What are curses? Well, that's a special card in Maleficent's deck where you put it down on a location and it just sits there. Maybe it has an effect. Maybe it does something when it comes into play. Maybe it sets off a trigger where no hero can be played in that realm, but also Maleficent can't visit that location again. So you've hampered yourself in order to work towards your own goal. It's an interesting way to do this game. It again puts you in the role of that character and sets you up for that. The Queen of Hearts has to set up a wicket and set up wickets on the board and make a successful shot. Right? Again, mimicking the game where you take the card guards, the actual playing card guards, you turn them into wickets sideways, and then you are going to reveal cards from your deck that have a certain strength based on what you're revealing, and then you have to have better than that in your wickets, right, in order to make that shot. It's this complicated little shot you try to shoot through. Captain Hook, well, you capture Peter Pan. There you go. That seems straightforward, except of course, I've not even looked at Captain Hook's deck. I don't know who he's fighting against, what's going to happen there. What could go wrong with that plan? Well, clearly many things. Again, I have a hard time talking about the game because I played only 2-player. And, as I've said, once things start working against you, your actions are all taken away and you can't do as much to stop the other player. I don't know whether that's a drawback in a 2-player game or just a drawback with inexperience. Because again, when I played the second time with Ursula, I knew what to look for. I knew to strike back against heroes, not focus on other things, but push the heroes out of the way, dig for cards that would let me do that. Again, that's experience rather than inexperience. I don't know how that interacts with the game design element and how that will change as you get more experience with particular characters. Also, what's the multiplayer experience like? You have a fate action that you can take against anyone. Are you going to hammer? Is everyone going to hammer the same person over and over again? In a 5- and 6-player game, you have a fate token which is given to one player, and if they have a fate played against them, they get that token and no one can play against them until someone else gets a fate action. So you can't hit the same player over and over again, which keeps one player from getting hammered, but it also keeps you from ganging up on the leader. So you can't just fate that person over and over again, whoever that leader is perceived to be. Again, I played 3 times with 2 players. I feel a little iffy talking about the game in so much detail and with such passion, enthusiasm, speculation, but it's a fascinating concept to have this multiplayer game in which you're all kind of siloed, where the fate cards are already set, if you want to think of it that way. It's a deck that can't be changed. I don't know what's coming against me in particular, but after a few plays, I will know what is in the deck, have some idea of what to expect. But again, it's not someone playing something from outside my world. It's my world, and I just have to learn the world, and I could be the best Ursula that I can be. Really learn everything that's in there. Type of card I haven't mentioned. In your villain deck, you have condition cards. You have allies that you play that are going to have strength to fight back against heroes. You have item cards that are going to go on allies. You have effects, which have some particular action that's described on the card. You have curses in Maleficent. You have conditions, which you can play conditionally. If another player meets the condition on that card, maybe they have 3 items in play, they have 3 allies, they have 6 power, they defeated a hero of a certain strength, whatever that is, you can play the condition card and take some effect. So you can try to set up against someone to try to make that condition happen, if you know that's going to happen. In my first game, Jafar was sitting on a condition card forever against me. Card, if I had 3 allies in play, they get to do something. Haha, Ursula has only 2 allies in her entire deck, Flotsam and Jetsam. So that card was never going to happen, but he didn't know that initially. He just sat on it for the longest time until finally he was just, whatever, I'll move on. I played it against Prince John, where one of my condition cards is your opponent, an opponent has 6 power, which Prince John wants to collect power. So yes, of course they're going to have power. It's perfect for that deck. I'm going to make sure to sit on that and make it happen. If you have someone defeats a hero of strength 4, I don't even know if you have heroes of strength 4 in your deck initially. So you're playing blind until you get more experience. I want to get more experience. I want to see more on this. So I will have to make it happen and play a bit more once I get through with this video and can get back to playing.